Hello everyone, my name is Daeung Kim. Today I'm going to talk about my anthropology project which uses an ethnographic approach. I look back on my own experience in military to reflect on how it shaped me. As you can see from my title, I felt that my time in service was not just a duty. Through this experience, I was able to grow mentally and emotionally and become mature. Before we dive in, I'd like to briefly talk about the history of why a mandatory military system is required in Korea. Before the country was divided, Korea was under Japanese colonial rule for 35 years. During this time, people lost their freedom and faced many restrictions while their resources were extracted. Korea was liberated in 1945, however, the country was immediately divided into North and South. Because of this division, the Korean War broke out in 1950. This was not just an internal conflict, outside nations participated to support each side, and the war ended in a ceasefire, not a peace treaty, meaning the conflict technically remains unresolved today. The recurring pattern throughout this history is that Korea was often a target and lacked enough military power to defend itself. This is why the modern mandatory draft was established, to build a strong domestic military that can protect the nation. After liberation, the official Korean military system began in 1948. However, at the time, the administrative system was still in its early stages and lacked the capacity to fully support such a large-scale operation. In 1957, following the devastation of the Korean War, the modern mandatory military draft system we know today was largely solidified because the need for national defense became an absolute priority. Under this system, every man in South Korea must serve in the military unless they have a physical or mental disability that prevents them from doing so. The branch I chose for my service was the Air Force. To understand the life of Air Force draft soldier, let's look at the general overview of the process. First, everyone undergoes a 6 weeks of basic training. The main purpose here is a deconstruction of civilian behavior and attitude to fit into the disciplined military system. Following this, we transition to technical specialty school. Here we are taught the specific theory and practical skills required for our assigned roles. The duration varies depending on the complexity of the position, ranging from 2 to 12 weeks. Finally, you are assigned to a specific base where you serve the remainder of your time. In the Air Force, the total service period is 21 months. While you live on base, you are regularly granted vacation time, which you are allowed to go out of the base. Typically, every 6 weeks you earn 3 days, and depending on your performance and special achievement, you can earn extra vacation days as a reward. I joined on August 2019 and completed on June 2021. This is the what I identified from observation as a participant, training, working, communal living, restriction, team, and joy. The first 6 weeks of basic training were the most challenging for me. I still held a strong civilian identity, and the transition into such a strictly restricted environment was a major challenge. Every day I had to push past my physical limits just to keep up with the rigorous training schedule. However, once I moved into my specific role, my experience became quite unique. Because the demand for flight support was so high, my day-to-day life shifted. My schedule prioritized hands-on maintenance tasks to keep the aircraft ready to fly. In this image, you can see he is performing a tire pressure check, one of the many daily routines I handled on the flight line. These tires require very high pressure and checking them demanded a physical strength, which is actually what motivated me to start working out. Looking back now, the individual task might seem simple, but at the time I felt completely overwhelmed trying to keep up with the intense flight schedule. This high-pressure environment is where I learned the value of responsibility and teamwork. While each of us was officially responsible for one specific aircraft, we often faced a labor shortage. To, to prevent delays, we helped each other regardless of the same team or not. Whenever my own schedule was clear, I would head over to another aircraft to help them. The constant and selfless teamwork that allowed us to complete every mission on time without delay. In the military, you are forced to live in a very small space with many people. This, give, this gives you a chance to meet all kinds of people, which can be a great experience or a very difficult one. You have to get used to sleeping through different snoring sounds, and smelling fart is inevitable. The photo you can see here is from basic training, where everyone sleeps on the floor mat. Once you move to your assigned base, you get a bed, but you are still sharing a room with about 10 other people. The biggest cultural difference is 24/7 hierarchy. In the real world, you don't have to see your boss or manager once you clock out, but in the military, your rank defines your life, and you are living with your superior and your subordinate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no off button for the military social structure. I joined the Air Force in August 2019, and by December, the COVID-19 pandemic began. Ordinarily, we are allowed to leave every 6 weeks to see family and friends, but I was only able to take 2 vacations before the base was locked down. I ended up being confined to the base for an entire year, and military life is already strictly managed, but the pandemic made it even more restrictive. As a draft soldier, our phone use is limited, typically only from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. on weekdays and longer on weekends if I remember right. And during the pandemic, we had to wear masks at all times, even while working outside in the summer on the asphalt surface. Moving, moving on to the team, during this time I developed a very strong sense of teamwork. It was not just about individual tasks. We actively supported each other throughout every process. This collaborative environment was essential to ensure mission success, especially when handling the high-pressure responsibilities of aircraft maintenance. During my military service, I found that even the little thing had a value. Being able to use my phone made me happy, and even a rainy day brought joy because extreme weather is critical to flight operation. Sometimes it canceled the entire day's flight schedule and gave us chance to rest. I felt like I was always tired, so any time I could take a nap was a joyful moment. It made me realize how blessed I was to have had a peaceful life before. The values I found by reflecting on my experience are independence, teamwork, and responsibility. Before I joined the military, I had always lived in my family and relied on them heavily. Suddenly, I had to take care of everything by myself. It was the moment I learned how to live independently, and that independence is helping me a lot today. Next is teamwork. I saw many tasks that looked impossible to finish on time, but they always worked out because of collaboration of teamwork. I learned that teamwork streamlines the process and creates a much better workflow, which is a very important factor in any operations. Finally, responsibility. Even a small task on the flight line is critical to safety. This experience taught me that everyone must be fully responsible for their specific role because in aviation there is no room for error. And I had an interview with a friend who was on the same team as me when I was in Air Force, so I asked what he had learned. So he said, I learned how important it is for a mechanic to be responsible for the success of mission, as it is critical for safety. He added that it was a great opportunity to meet various people he might not have met otherwise in society. However, he also mentioned that if they ask me to come back, I would not go. So thanks for your time. Thank you.